for scouting.
Yeah, indeed. And, well, I've enjoyed watching this map because you see quite a nice bit of variation. Mostly just due to the way they go about it. I've seen a lot of teams go towards, the left side of the map, going up the tracks, using their, T1s that way. And I've seen a lot of them scouting towards a hill. And it's nice seeing a little bit of variation between each team. That's my favourite part of it all, is, you just see that kind of slight bit of personality really shining out. And I do believe we're about to go into the game.
So here we go on Himmelsdorf. Kazna crew just obliterated GF on our first map. Ensk looking for that first win in the best of 5 games. We have 2 city maps straight away off the bat. Kazna crew are starting south, while GF have gone for that north spawn. And they are pushing straight towards the hill, actually, with their AMX 5100, their T69 as well in there. Well, the IS-3 is filtering off to the 8 line. Kazna crew responding?
Well, they are going towards the hill. As we mentioned, those AMX 5100s are splitting towards it. As Veko and Runes making their way towards that area. And the IS-3 joining in. Still Mojo keeping eyes towards the banana section, as I've learned it's kind of referred to here. Just going to see how this one plays out. I don't see any real early exchange as such, or any early action, but I'm curious to see how it goes down by that hilltop.
Yeah, still Mojo being spotted in that IS-3 straight away. And this is going to be your classic IS-3 versus IS-3 along the banana road, some people like to refer to it as. And now it's just going to be about who can connect the shell. Still Mojo, very experienced in that IS-3, although he perhaps could be called a better AMX 5100 player, is his usual pick. But now these teams have been practicing. They've had a little bit of respite, which is important to mention, since the first season. And that will really give them some rejuvenation, some fresh thoughts, some fresh tactics. They can ponder over what went wrong, what went right in the season. They can look over their VODs.
Certainly.
Hybert taking an initial shot, actually, from the T69 straight away, but he also gets a shot. So 1 shell each, as we often see at the beginning on the hill with these T69s.
Yeah, indeed. And we do see a couple of players just dancing around by that hilltop at the moment, not really wanting to kind of get over that defilade. The T1 is making his way around, and that is Gabrielian.
Yeah, well,
he's actually spotted 2 of the opposing players there, so it's not a bad bit of play. Fairly gutsy to be making the way all the way around there, but hey, it certainly might pay off here.
Well, Hybert making another brilliant shot onto the T1, taking him out straight away. So once again, GF losing the T1 advantage from the get-go. Well, the T1 didn't do anything wrong particularly. I mean, perhaps he should have gone around the side instead of going straight forwards and trying to reverse around Hybert, not falling for that trick. Still, Mojo did receive a shot from the IS-3 without any response until when he did hit it, but he did no damage. The BL9 not living up to performance, up to hype for him at least. It's a hard gun to play, even with the accuracy changes.
Yeah, indeed. And the way Cobra Leone right now is playing, he's actually spotted 2 of the opposition. The T69 and the AMX 5100 have been spotted, now allowing the team to push up, and the damage is being dealt right there. The T69 has to retract way back down that hill now and try and regather their thoughts and hopefully find a way back into this. Yeah.
It's amazing to see, actually, how different the game is already going in terms of what we saw last season before 8.6. Those shots against this guy here, the T69 player, would have never hit in last patch. They would have very rarely would have hit. Maybe 1 in 10 shells would have hit. But Hyber, because he's used his skill, he's used his experience, he's used his intuition in that T69, he's managed to land 2 shells already. And it's not because of the T69's played badly. It's just because Hyber is the better player, and he's used that skill to really to his advantage, because he's been able to hit the shots. And it's really interesting to see how that's changed.
Yeah, indeed. And Hyber is pushing up, actually. He's joining the rest of his teammates, and he might actually try and play a little bit more aggressively towards that hill. As, the T1 has lost eyes on it for now, but well, Hyber seems to be really rather raring to go. And another tank has been spotted towards the edge of that banana. I do believe the exchange has been going on for a while there. They're not going to be expecting too much movement, I can imagine. But we do see a little bit of a stalemate, but who do you think's kind of gained the better ground here from both of the sides?
Well, Kazna crew definitely have. They've pushed forwards onto the hill. Still Mojo's managed to keep 2 IS3s at bay while hitting
impressive.
one good shot on there. Yeah, very good play from him. This T69 here has played pretty well. He's been spooked. He thought, well, okay, maybe there's Hyber on there, but you can get around that area, around the hill, without being spotted. And that's why you reverse, because if he didn't, then we could have possibly seen him getting taken out by the double AMX 5100 and the T69 that are on that hill.
Yeah, indeed. Hyber's still just about to breach the crest of the hill now, looking down towards the opposition, who have retracted back, as you guys can see. So let's just see if anyone's going to really break the silence here. It does seem that Kazna crew aren't looking very good in the situation, though.
No, Kazna crew do have the advantage, that's for sure. GF showing perhaps a little bit of inexperience. Koblu and pushing forward straight away. The MX-5100 will have to spare a shell for him. That will take him down to 5 on his autoloader, which is a very key point, because he will need that damage at 300, which that gun does. And the SA-47 is a very situational gun. If it's used right, then it's amazing. But if you have one less shell, that could be the end of it in a firefight.
Yeah, and Cobrione once again doing the work, finding 2 of the opposition here, spotting that T69 again, and the AMX 5100 now, and just kind of trying to play cautious on the hill, hoping that Hyber will be able to cover him if he needs it, because, well, he's going to be in trouble. So, once again, tagged up, the damage is being dealt. Hyber is now making his way down towards the hill, and the T69 looks like it's going to have to try and back off here.
Yeah, the T69 running into some real problems. Hyber did just take a big shell from the IS-3 right there. T69 also took 2 shells, taking down to 28%. As the 2 AMX 5100s will be pushing onto the Hyber. I'm not sure if he actually knows if there's any other tanks behind there. And now it's a one-on-one, as Rune's getting focused down straight away.
Yeah, indeed. Damage back and forth we go. It's actually Rune's to go down there. And Hyber following suit. This is not going well for such a great start. They are falling apart at the seams as we speak. The damage keeps coming in, and it's not necessarily in the favor of the fan favorites right now. As wow, Veko has to try and back up, and he's been taken down. And well, Mojo's the only one to find a reply, but well, this is not looking good at the moment.
No, that was not a particularly clever move by Kazna crew. They didn't have the cover of GF Gaming, and it certainly showed, but at the same time they did have slightly better tactics as they pushed around the bottom with their 2 IS3s, taking that IS3 out pretty early on in the engagement, so they can kind of reset themselves and get themselves into a good position.
Yeah, and Paluda going for a little bit of a cheeky cap, it believes, or at least he's going to try to get himself towards the opposition here. And Ziggy has joined in the fun with that IS3. He's just going to weight it down now and try and rack up the time, as now the opposition have to make their move here. They've got to get involved again. Yeah,
this is a classic move from Kazna crew. They've put the 2 T1s behind. They cannot be taken down unless... Oh, and there we go. Ziggy taking down that T69 straight there. He knew he'd be there, and he knew he couldn't reverse. A good play by Ziggy right there. And now GF Gaming definitely have the disadvantage, not because they weren't the better in the firefight, because they didn't have the tactical intuition.
Well, and it was actually still Mojo to get a bit of a track onto the IS-3 as it's made its way forward, and now he has been taken out. But such a great bit of players now. Ziggy and Paluda are the only 2 standing. Well, make it 1.
Yeah, now Kazna crew definitely didn't go too well in that engagement.
Sadly not.
No, definitely not. And Pilauda will get taken down, and that will bring it to 1 game apiece on Himmelsdorf. Obviously, Kazna crew winning it on Ensk. And I said at the beginning that this team, as a Polish team, is very strong on city maps. And if they can make that work for them, then they could be doing very well in Season 2.
I think you summed up there. Just take me through that, because it looked as though Kazna crew initially did quite well there. They got control of the hill, which looked great. The T1 did the work, straight off the bat. They spotted a couple of the players. They played the banana section fairly well as well. Did a nice exchange. It didn't fall behind anywhere near that quickly. But as soon as they breached the crest of that hill, what the hell happened there? Because they just got picked apart one by one. What went wrong?
Well, it's about positioning, isn't it? I mean, the MX-5100 pushed down the hill. They were in a position where they couldn't really do much. They couldn't reverse because it's up a hill that's too far. GF Gaming came around, they had the pile of dirt that's around that hill.
Yep.
They have the walls, they have everything in their advantage. And that's what really helped, because they could get the shots off, they could reverse, miss dodgy shell from Kazna crew. You know, they're just dictating the gameplay. That's what they're doing. They're just dictating what Kazna crew is doing, and that's why they won the engagement. And again, I always say it, you cannot push with equal number of tanks onto equal number of tanks, because the other team will have the advantage of getting the first shots off, even with the accuracy changes. So, you know, in a game that's so much about getting the first shot off, you cannot do that. It's just impossible. You're just going to get completely flattened, and we see it over and over again, and Kazna crew just got taught that lesson once again in Season 2.
Yeah, indeed, and well, you'd hope they'd learned their lesson from the last season, but well, they're certainly being reminded now. And I do see the next map that's coming up, and now this is one that the patch changes may actually affect, as I do recall vaguely, do prove me wrong, but I know some teams do opt for artillery on this map. Yeah,
they do. Some of them going for the heavy artillery, your Lorraines, mostly your GV Panthers, even we see a GV Panther Bison set up, but obviously we've been talking about 8.6, you know.
It could be a change here.
Exactly, it could be a change. We could see either, we could see a Bison, we could see no artillery at all. These teams obviously been training on 8.6 quite a lot now for probably a few days at least, and they will know what artillery works and what doesn't. And it's going to be really, really interesting to see if any of these teams pick even the small artillery. I mean, obviously, the big artillery is a bit more clear-cut, but the smaller ones, it's up in the air.
Exactly, and I can't wait to see which one this is picked, you know, which way it goes. Because we saw two fairly standardized maps towards tank picks. Now we see something that could be completely defined by, you know, a patch update. So this is going to be an interesting one. And this is a fresh season as well, so these guys may have practiced it a lot, but it's certainly a big difference, you know, going from, you know, a practice game into, you know, one of the major kind of leagues that go on here. You know, this is where you prove yourselves, this is where you make a name for yourself. And obviously the newer guys to this that we haven't seen so much from, you know, in the previous season, clearly want to make a name for themselves, and the way they played that second map, they certainly have the ability to.
Exactly. I mean, it would have been unfortunate if they were a team that came in and just got completely obliterated by all the teams. And they've obviously just proven that they're not going to be like that. They're going to win the games on the maps, which we thought, well, could they take that one?
Exactly,
and especially the maps like Himmelsdorf, where it's about your coordination, it's about your heavy tank coordination. And we saw they had that, and then that's going to be really important, because that's one of the main things in this game is how you coordinate your tanks. And if they have that down, obviously they're going to be able to improve it through Season 2, and they're just going to get better and better.
Well, the people I referred to as the underdogs clearly have a little bit more going on than I initially thought. So let's see if they've actually started picking the tanks yet, and I do believe they have. So a couple of picks here and there. Nothing too out of the blue just as of yet. And
no.
Do you reckon one of them will go for the artillery, or do you think they're going to completely miss it? What's your gut opinion here?
It's such a hard thing to call. I think we're going to see a Bison.
You think?
I think we're going to see a Bison.
I'm putting you on the spot just to make you feel awkward. This is literally all I do. You know, you guys haven't had me co-casting with poor old Ollie, but I just like to make people feel as uncomfortable as possible.
I feel I'm going to get abused through this season. It's already started. I can feel it coming on. And
what can I say? It's a gift I have. You know,
it's a gift. It's a torment. I mean,
it never stops giving.
Yeah.
You'll enjoy it. I assure you. But,
well, we'll see. We'll see. I might turn that back on you and just do that same to you every time.
Oh, gee, I'll make you do every intro. There you go. That's what gets him.
All right.
But yeah, nothing out of the blue just as of yet. I think we can safely say here the choices kind of being made by either side. And who do you think would be the player to actually pick up that artillery if they did?
I think we'll see Eurofish, the team captain, taking the artillery, or Runes. He was also an artillery player. And I did predict that we'll see a Sturmpanzer, and we do indeed see one. That would be a Sturmpanzer 2, I believe. I'm not sure if they mean it. Actually, it could be a Sturmpanzer Bison. We'll see. Some of these teams get the names a little bit mixed up. T69s from both sides, MX-3090s in there. Hybert picking an MX-3090 as well, T69. T50-2, Sturmpanzer 2 or Sturmpanzer combo, very interesting how that synergy will work together. And we see what will be a very big tank in this season, the T71 coming out from GF.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm actually yet to try the T71. Like, I've been playing the very standardized tanks that we saw a lot through DreamHack. Obviously, I've found my favorite that I made very clear in the last map. But what can we expect to see from that T71? What sort of playstyle would that kind of play into? What sort of roles will that be fulfilling, especially maps like mine, or mines?
It's pretty much your little terrier, isn't it? You know, you send it forwards, it scouts out the area, it's fast, it's nimble, it's basically an MX-3090, but much faster and much more maneuverable. So it's your pincer movement. You can just send it around. It does a bit of damage in the back. I mean, it can do 1,000 with that autoloader if you connect all 6 shells. But it's not really for damage. It's for being a nuisance, pretty much. And it's especially good against, you know, your artilleries, your T-50-2s, because it can catch up and it can just completely pound. We haven't seen it play particularly well in Season 1. I can't even remember one standout performance. Dragonborns took it on mines a lot, but it's such a hard tank to play because it's so in the air. It's so undefined, and you know, we haven't really got like a base player who we can say, okay, he plays it like that, so I'm going to play it like that, and it's going to work. And that's going to be a big, interesting point in Season 2, I think.
Well, maybe we have a new team to define and become that player. Who knows? These guys are, you know, fairly the underdogs in this. You know, they haven't quite got the track record that, let's say, the Kazna crew guys have. It may not necessarily be the most pure kind of track record in the world, but clearly they do have one. But this could be the defining moment for this tank, and see if it could be played this way in, you know, other games on this map especially. But we are just waiting on what? I'm just kind of curious what we're waiting for here. The guys are just taking their time, as maybe the Kazna crew have been kind of had a little bit of a rude awakening after, you know, maybe coming into this thinking, well, you know, we're clearly not necessarily the clear favourites, but we're the fan favourites in this. Maybe they're coming in a little bit too confident. They've been a little bit knocked off that perch there coming into the second moment, obviously losing it to the team that you wouldn't expect to do the damage. I'm quite curious to see how this map pans out for them, because I've seen, you know, a couple of big teams play this. I've watched a couple of VODs on this very map, and it's always been it's been fairly defined by the teams rather than the map itself. It's not necessarily that kind of very straightforward tactics. It can be quite an interesting map. You see a little bit of character coming through in it. So I believe we do have one team ready. We are just going to wait on the Kazna crew to have that lovely little ready note to us and hopefully get the game underway. Yeah,
both teams have picked their lineups. We can just run through that quickly. T69, T50-2, T1 obviously, T69 again, so double T69 coming out from Kazna crew, AMX 3090, and a triple T69 from Kazna crew, along with that Sturmpanzer 2. As I said, it could have been either. And then from the new guys, GF Gaming, we've got T2 Lite, which we don't see often used. It's about 50-50. Sometimes we see it. We see a double AMX 1390, double T69, and a T71 and T1. So in terms of firepower, I would say the score goes to Kazna crew. But, you know, Kazna crew want to be playing aggressive, and their aggressive movements on Himmelsdorf didn't go too well. And if they wanted to do well in Season 2, they've really got to finesse that as we go on our minds. So here we go, one game apiece on our third map. Mines, Kazna crew versus GF Gaming. GF Gaming picking the more, obviously tank-centric north side, while Kazna crew picking the Sturmpanzer 2 have the south side. So if GF Gaming has the synergy I was talking about on Himmelsdorf, they could possibly be the better team. But a city map and an open map where you're using scouts, it's two completely different games. It's a completely different ballpark.
Yeah, indeed. We have to see how this one goes down. You see kind of what we'd expect to see, but a big push coming out from Z there, straight down the middle of this map, and does manage to spot 2 players. So already find that 1390 for the opposition and the T71, that kind of danger pick as such. So already calling in for the help does as one of the members of Kazna crew. So they're just going to play this one a little bit slow now, slowing down that pace of play that literally just was straight out of it, and they literally flew down the map. That was a bit of gutsy play coming up for that T52. Yeah,
T71 also has a lot of guts. He pushed straight up the hill. He did get connected by a shell from Palauda, and another shot coming from, I believe, an AMX 1390. Yes, Veko sitting there behind. 2 shots that taken down to 45%. But, you know, as I said before, the T71 isn't the most important tank on the map, certainly isn't the damage dealer. And if you don't use it as a scout, you don't use it as a little bit of a cushion for damage, then what do you use it for?
Yeah, but it has made Hyber there push up just a touch to try and make his way through further towards mid. Those shots were raining in towards his teammates, so he's maybe finding a little bit of his feet towards mid and finding a bit of a better position as the rest of the team. I'm feeling very static right now, considering how Kazna Crew played that last map.
Yeah, that's for sure. But, you know, when you're playing against a completely new team,
very true.
What else do you expect? Because if they don't play static and they rush into a situation they don't know, then it could all go horribly wrong in the first game of the season, which you do not want. You want to get the confidence straight off the bat. And there we go, another shell connecting onto the T69 straight away, I believe. That was from Still Mojo in the Sturm Panzer II. Obviously, the game sounds have changed as well, so it's a little harder to tell if it was from, I don't know, like a heavy tank or a light tank. So I think that was a Sturm Panzer II at least. And another good shell coming out from Still Mojo. Connecting a HE shell right onto the front of the T69. That does mean he's probably in the corner. K1, K2 line perhaps.
Indeed, but that T2 line for the opposition has been spotted now as it's made its way forward. And Ziggy there comfortably finding him and taking control of that. But actually, Hyber's in a great position towards this middle section as that T69 is making its way over, joined by the other T69. As now Hyber's in a little bit of a pickle, to say the very least at the moment. As now he's literally dancing between this rock, trying not to overexpose himself, trying to dance out the shots, and he's called it in, and the artillery is raining in towards those T69 as well. Hyber's received some damage on himself as well, so it's a bit of a tense situation, to say the very least right here.
And on the other side, we saw GF Gaming push heavily with the AMX1390s, connecting some shells straight onto the back of Hyber.
Oh, my word. They literally just got surrounded. And now here comes that T71 into the action, trying to do some work, trying to avenge his fallen teammates, but to no avail as Ziggy flies in and does the damage, leaving only 3 now standing for the opposition.
Yeah, it's a 1 versus 1. Veko losing out on that one. Only doing a couple of 100 damage to the AMX1390. Another great shot onto the T50-2. Once again, connecting another shell, taking down to 121, so he won't be quite as frivolous as he was before, but it's just really an interesting move by Kazna Crew. They saw the AMX1390s were pushing up the 8 line, and they knew they could just surround those GF Gaming T69s on the hill and just blow them away.
Yeah, indeed. And well, the flag does seem to be firmly in the hands of the opposition from the Kazna Crew right now, as Hyber has to do work, and Runes actually was the one to get that there, as that flag is now rather occupied by the opposition. It's not looking too good, as Leone is trying to do the damage as well, but they're laying down the fire right now. I'll give them that. Yeah,
the T50-2 annoying the hell of that MX1390, but now he's completely surrounded, down to 36%, 15%, and here we go.
Wow.
Getting taken down in a quite blinding style by Kazna Crew. Yeah,
I was a little bit worried towards that midsection, and that early dash straight down that middle line, it almost gave it away. But, well, with the likes of the players they have, the caliber of the players they have, they truly did the work. And Ziggy then was brilliant. The amount of shots he landed was incredible. Mojo, as you kept mentioning, kept just really hassling and just nibbling away at the opposition there. And it's just the way they played out. That was a completely different team to, you know, the Kazna Crew in the last map. They looked like such a good collective, very adaptive on the fly as well. Now, what's your take on that, the way that played out? Because the newer guys to this looked like they barely got a glimpse into this.
Well, I think that's pretty much what we'd expect. But just, well, I don't know. It's a hard one to call because I was talking about how, you know, on city maps we see the coordination being really important from the heavy tanks, but you know, it's an easier thing to coordinate, isn't it? They're slower, they're bigger. It's more
you
in line
know
with
where you're at.
Exactly. And when you play a heavy tank on a city map like a Himmelsdorf, it's quite close to playing like you do in random battles. But where it takes up to the next level in this game is a map like Mines, where coordinating tanks that are going almost 50 miles an hour, 45, 50 miles an hour, shots going all over the place, you know, all sorts of things going on. And that's where the skill comes in, and that's where Kazna Crew has the experience.
They showed it there. I don't think anyone can doubt that. And it's nice seeing the team that, you know, struggled at land, kind of finding their feet again. You know, they lost it a little bit. They're giving us an interesting game, to say the very least. They're not going to let this one rest at all. So we do see the next map kind of underway now. Well, it's not underway as such, don't fear, guys. We are just at the tank pick screen. No, don't panic yet. It's going to be Abbey here. And, well, is there any going to be picks, you know, is there going to be interesting picks in this map, or is it another standardized kind of selection?
It's probably the most interesting map to think about when it comes to picks. It's so hard to call. I mean, I honestly know as much as you, pretty much. So, and it's
Why
just,
are you here then?
I don't know. I just turned up.
There's the door. We'll take him out soon. I'm sure the bouncers here at ESL Studios will find out who this man is. He knows nothing of this game clearly, but he knows a lot more than me. So this map, why is it such one of those kind of up in the air maps as such? What makes it the way that is?
I mean, even looking at the minimap icon, it's so big, it's so complicated. Yep. I'm always saying this. You've just got so many elements. I mean, if you look towards the left side, you can see we have the mountain area where we usually see something like on random battles we see a heavy tank pushing. We've got the trench side as well. Tank destroyers usually go there. I mean, we've got the middle area for scouts. We've got the lower middle area. We've got the lower left side middle area. It goes on. And it's not really an artillery map. We don't usually see that, so we won't be getting to see if the teams pick artillery on it or not. We need to have a Prokhorovka or something for that, or Steps, which is one of our new maps. Obviously, we got two new maps. Y Park has been removed, and also Steps is coming for that. We've also got Ruhenberg as well, so instead of Airfield. Yeah. So I think we'll see pretty standard line. I think we'll see T-71s in there, AMX 1390s, depending on the team, and AMX 5100 perhaps. And we can have a little look if they've started tank picking, actually.
I think Hybert is just gone to the toilet. He was a little bit nervous last game. After losing that second map, he's like, all right, guys, I just need to go for a second. So they're just kind of, trying to get themselves ready for this one, because it does really matter to these guys. They've come off a loss at DreamHack. The confidence has been knocked. And it's a place to prove yourself. Obviously, the first game in a brand new season, it's a fresh start for these guys. And you don't want to start losing maps, start losing games this early on. You want to go in and show everything you've got, because bearing in mind how well, let's say, WoT Pro did last season, how many games they won and lost, it's something to look at and go, okay, we need to kind of focus on every single moment, because these guys made their way to the finals and they still lost. So it's still a game that you can never just go, oh, these guys will win it. That's the problem. In a lot of other game titles, you can go, oh, they're the firm favourites. They'll get that in the bag. But with so many variables and so many different defining factors that come in with each and every patch, there seems to be changes that can really change the metagame, as you said. So there's a lot to take into account here. But guys, do let us know, obviously on Facebook, on Twitter, just about everywhere you can, even in Twitch chat. I'm sure some of the guys around here will be keeping eyes on that too, hopefully. Obviously, that would be the WoT Pro League. If you look that up on Facebook, look it up on Twitter, or go on the website itself and have a little look through there, because there's some awesome things on there. I've been looking through it. But make sure you get involved and let us know if this game is going the way you'd have expected. Obviously, I didn't think the newer guys to this would have even picked up a map on this so far, to be fair. So my prediction's already gone out the window. I shouldn't be making predictions, though. This is your turn. Twitch chat, I'm looking at you. So I think we are going to start actually getting the picks underway, as I think, Veko announced that his teammate was back. So, Hybers said he's back, so that's fine. So they're going to start picking now as we speak. So let's have a little run through what they're looking at so far. So
we've got an AMX 1390 T69 being picked straight off the bat, and also an AMX 1390. A 5100 I was talking about being picked from GF Gaming. They will be hard to use that one properly because it is slower than the AMX 1390. It is a touch faster, especially along a straight road, than an AMX 51, than a T69. And if it's too big, then how are you going to really use it? Because it can't go up the Abbey, because there's the only way you can get up there is through the main street, which is always locked down by pretty much every tank on the other team. So you've got to go through the little nooks and crannies, I should say, which is only really accessible by something small like an MX 1390, T71, T1 as well. But we're seeing picks coming from Hyber, T71, T2 Light. T71, I said, would be one of the defining tanks of this season. And we have another.
Seem to be right.
Exactly, we have another pick from GF Gaming. Same T71, T2 Light straight away. So fast, small T2 Light tank plus a fast, small American light tank. So it's going to be a fast game either way.
Yeah, and I'm not sure who that suits more here, because, well, Kazna crew look very comfortable doing it. We've seen them on the first map and the one we just saw there looking very good at that. Yet on that middle ground, and you said that they're very hit and miss with it as well. So this map could be a real kind of tough battle for these guys, and see if it actually pays off for them or not. It's not going to be easy.
It certainly isn't. I mean, Kazna crew are probably the more coordinated team, but they haven't got the greatest track record on Abbey. I mean, they've done pretty well. It's about 50-50. But GF Gaming have quite a lot of experience. I mean, they play, as I was talking, over and over and over and over and over again on every kind of tournament cup, every Polish cup, every Go for What as well. So, you know, they're not inexperienced.
No, I refer to them as underdogs merely compared to Kazna.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? They're not, you know, new guys to this by any means. They've clearly showed that class already.
So picks coming out from Kazna Crew, AMX3090, T1, and then an AMX3090 from GF Gaming. So pretty similar picks from both teams, obviously. The difference being the AMX5100 from GF Gaming as opposed to the extra AMX3090 from Kazna Crew. Kazna Crew has one more pick, I believe, and so does GF Gaming. Actually, Still Mojo... no, GF Gaming is actually picked completely, I think. Still Mojo just needs to come into battle, I think.
Yeah, he's just taking his time.
Taking a breather, I think.
Yeah, you know, there's always one. He played pretty damn well in the last map, so let's give him a little bit of a break here. I know you're pretty harsh on these guys. Like, what you're saying when you mute your mic is just horrible, but I'm lying. But no, Still Mojo did play very well in that last map, so obviously he's just kind of taking his time. Obviously, these picks do really matter. You know, they can be defining towards the way the game turns out. So we'll have to see when he go. Ooh, what?
See, I was going to make the first pun of the season, say we're still waiting for him, but then you just joined the battle again just when I'm about to make the pun. So
you're one of those people who make puns, aren't you?
Well, I get my habit.
Oh, God. What? Why wasn't I told this before I took this job?
I'm very bad at puns, so it's okay.
Oh, the worse the better. It's fine. Like, if you make a good pun, it just goes straight over the top of my head, so it has to be pretty bad for me to even take notice.
But that's the great thing about Tanks. There's so many puns. I mean...
oh, please don't give me examples. At no point did I ask for examples.
All right.
Dear Lord.
So we're ready to go into the game.
I am kidding. It's fine. But no, I think we're still waiting on the Kazna Crew just to say they're ready at the moment. Everyone else is ready. We're even ready, and that's saying something. But as I said, do make sure you get involved on Twitter, on Facebook, in the usual way. You guys know it by now. You don't need me to say it. Say, no, you did. I can't speak. But you don't need me to say it again because I can't even say it. But it's WoT Pro League or WoT Pro League on Facebook or Twitter. Get us your predictions. How do you think this one's going to end? And obviously let us know how you think these two are playing. Is one of your favourites in this? You know, just let us know. So we are just going to wait on... Is it Hyber who's still waiting?
Yeah, we're just waiting for Kazna Crew to ready up. Hyber's left. He's in garage at the moment, so... I think he's probably just a bit nervous, as we were saying, running about the house, going insane, 2-1 up against GF Gaming in the first game of the season. Hyber has just joined, actually, so we should be able to go into game momentarily.
Famous last words.
Famous last words, indeed.
But no, we are underway, almost, and there you have it.
So here we go again, 2-1 to Kazna Crew so far, taking mines quite well, quite overarchingly. I mean, they completely obliterated GF Gaming with superior synergy, but GF Gaming do still have a chance. This is a best of 5 game, so the team obviously needs to win a total of 3, and this is GF Gaming's game to come back from. I mean, sending T71 straight out the middle with the T69. I think they just want to get some spots out. They don't want to get caught out by that very, very fast lineup of Kazna Crew.
Yeah, Hyber going straight down towards that Abbey, as you mentioned. They'll be using that T71 in a quite similar fashion. The T69 not following too far away as well. So these guys just kind of lining up. The early spots are being made now. That T2 light has been uncovered. Not sure if that was from Hyber or actually Vec, no. But no shots really laid down yet. But that T71 makes its way towards that Abbey. Could cause some trouble here.
Yeah, T71 spotting out onto Hyber, so that'll be a spot apiece to the two teams, and also Steel Mojo being spotted in the T69. So at the moment, GF Gaming and Kazna crew, you know, they know where each other are in terms of the Abbey, which is pretty standard. I mean, both teams know that they'll go to the Abbey, so they don't even really need to spot the other team to know that. But GF Gaming do have the AMX 5100, so they do have the HP advantage and the firepower advantage. So any push they do make, we'll see them probably win, regardless of what Kazna crew put up against, because you can't deny that SA-47's 1,800 damage. It's just completely blows you away if you're in a T69 or an AMX 1390.
Yeah, indeed. And it's actually Hyber again, making his way forward. He's already got shots coming in towards him. He's got to back out of there. Making his way towards that Abbey, spotting that tank. I believe it's the T71 just around the corner. So keeping eyes on that, but not really landing too much damage, I don't believe, actually. So a little bit of, you know, kind of tentative play between the two. Not really want to make too much of a move, because this is obviously all important here. There's now Hyber just going back in for another little bit of a peek around the corner. It's the T69, actually, that he's just caught a glimpse of. Now he's going to make his way back out as well. So clearly not wanting to challenge just as of yet, but I can see a couple of shots are being landed towards one of his teammates, though. Yeah,
still Mojo came off worse after the first engagement. He got one shell connected for about 200 damage, whilst this T69 player missed his shell, but he was pretty close. I mean, we always...
That T71's received a lot of damage, and most thing, it looks like he's moving almost into the eyes of Still Mojo here, which could be a real trouble. He's kind of in a little bit of a sticky situation, it seems, but he might be able to get himself out of there, as the Kazna guys, well, Kazna crew, have actually lost eyes on that one, so you have to wait to see if he reappears, and he has, and the damage is being dealt once again. I believe it's Hyber who's doing the work at the moment, so let's spin across to him, and it is indeed Hyber, just laying down those shells, all right down to only 4 HP, but finish off there by Hyber eventually. So that's the first frag falling in favor to the Kazna crew.
Yeah, that was a testament to Hyber's skill. We've seen him all day long connecting those shells. But here come GF Gaming up the 3 line with the 2 AMX 1390s, the AMX 5100, providing that firepower. But Kazna crew are now on the charge.
Oh, wow, indeed. Down that 6 and 7 straight away. Almost in unison, they're making their way around here. And this is going to be a real interesting situation that's developing as we speak. And we do see, I believe it's Runes and Veko making their way towards that area. It is indeed. It's Runes to receive the damage. They're being knocked off that nice full kind of armor he had going on there. As now Veko is just spinning his way around, desperately trying to catch up. So that T69 is just around the corner. The shots are being laid down. The shells are connecting. And, well, it's Runes to get the kill there onto one of the opposition. So it's not going too well so far to the newer comers to this league.
Yeah, GF Gaming lost their T71 and now losing a T69. Probably because they lost that T71. Runes and Hyber could just connect their shells. They could get in there without worrying too much about the T71 being a nuisance. And they saw that GF Gaming had pushed up further with the AMX 5100, double AMX 1390, so they knew that T69 was on its own. They knew they could focus it down within seconds of the GF Gaming getting back to positions to snipe them, and they executed it perfectly, and that's where the experience comes in. And I think GF Gaming, it's going to be a hard one to come back from after losing 2 of their key tanks, both the damage dealer and also a scout.
Yeah, indeed. And Runes here is right by the flag. He's literally... what is he doing right now? He's literally trying to, like, scout something out? Or why is he kind of in this position and not going for the flag yet?
Because, well, it's a risky move. I mean, if you go for the flag, you put yourself in the open, you can get sniped down, and that's not the game Kazna crew wants to play. They don't want to win on capping.
Wow. And saying that, Runes actually did manage to spot one of those T1s that was just on the hills to the right of the opposition's flag. So already doing work. This is paying off quite nice to them, as I don't think there's that many left for the opposition right now.
No, Runes has just been spotted. He will get charged down by the full health AMX 1390. Runes has got to get out of there, but you know, this is where it's going to come into play. Can GF Gaming connect these shells?
Wow, Runes is literally dancing between those shells, landing just in front, just behind, as that 1390, well, both 1390s are firmly and truly in chase. They've got to back away now, as I do believe the likes of I think it's Veko actually just around the, yeah, indeed. So that 1390 work went out from Runes. They're just scouting around, did the damage onto that T1, and now retracting back. So they haven't had to, you know, be too aggressive on this, but every kind of little charge they've made has been perfectly placed so far, it seems.
Yeah, they've probed and retreated perfectly. Good play from Kazna crew. We expect nothing less, to be honest. But GF Gaming, they're playing well. You know, they've pushed forwards, they've pushed back as well. Yep. They have an idea what they want to do. They're not just aimlessly driving around the map. They know where they want to go. They know what they want to do once they get there. And they're using that AMX 5100 as a kind of base camp. They know it's got the HP to soak damage. They know it can do damage. And they're just going, okay, we'll go out there with the MX 3090s and we'll retreat back to the MX 5100 when we want to kind of reset the battle a bit.
Yeah, indeed. And while it was Hyper, Runes, and I believe Veko to actually make their way up towards that 8 line, but they're backing off, leaving just Hyper there now, as Runes is going to edge back towards their own flag and play a little bit more passively. Do you think alarm bells started ringing then when they didn't actually spot the opposition down that 7 line? Yeah,
most definitely. We do see a push by the T2 light actually towards the cap of Kazna crew, but it's not a good thing if he tries to cap. He could sit in the cap for a little bit, put some pressure on, perhaps cause Kazna crew to retreat. But it does take 1 minute and 50 seconds or thereabouts to actually cap. So not a good move from him.
Yeah, indeed. And where Hyber is right now, I think he's kind of kept that in mind. He's already started to make his way back towards his own flag right now, playing a little bit passively and working that 7 and 8 line very nicely. And just going to keep eyes on his own flag. He has spotted that T2 light as well, so the game is already up almost for that one player who thought, maybe I could kind of apply some pressure this way, but clearly not going to pay off, as now Hyber's just going to position himself nicely to keep eyes across that flag and make sure none of the opposition can make it in there too easily and kind of offset their current kind of style of play.
Yeah, and you've got to bear in mind that Kazna crew have the tier 8 point advantage, so if this clock does tick down to 0, they will be taking the third and, well, obviously definitive round. So it's up to GF Gaming to push. It's up to GF Gaming to make the plays, or they will be losing their first game of Season 2. And you can see that eagerness, you can see that want, the lust in their eyes as they're pushing forwards, rather scaredly perhaps, but they definitely have some conviction in their movement.
Yeah, indeed. And Hyber actually caught a glimpse of all three now, laying down those shells. They are connecting onto the opposition as he just loses eyes as they make their way beyond that defilade. As now the T2 light is being absolutely smashed to pieces. Doesn't land that second shell, but knocked him so far off that complete marker. He's going to have to retract himself, though. Getting damage left, right, and center. Wow, I'm surprised he's actually made it out of that alive. Left at only 146 right now. Yeah,
Hyber overstayed his welcome there in his T71. And now Kazna crew are on the defense, pushing backwards. AMX 3090 connecting a brilliant shell onto the side of Pelauda.
Wow.
As Hyber just got completely obliterated then. And now Kazna crew are in big, big trouble. AMX 5100 laying down some good shells.
Yeah, indeed, Pelauda is being absolutely pounded at the moment in that T69, trying to make his way back to his own flag that is being captured as he just edges towards it as Veko gets there first, laying down a couple of shells that have connected. The AMX 1390 is just about standing as we speak, and they're just trying everything they can right now, and it's just a dangerous situation.
Yeah, well, GF Gaming have kind of thrown the game a little. They stayed there too long in the cap, pushing around the AMX 1390, missing 2 shells though.
Oh, this is a horribly close little battle going on. 12 HP versus, was that 16 I see escaping? No, 105, excuse me, my eyesight is awful. But look what a minuscule amount of health these guys are left on as the shot finally lands, and Pelauda actually does the damage that he's been desperately trying to do for so long. But, well, the Kazna crew aren't in the best way at the moment, but you know, it's 3 against 2 here, and who's going to count the victor of this one?
Oh, well, it really depends on what this AMX 5100 here does. If he can connect the shells and doesn't get himself surrounded, he will be able to take the win. The amount of damage this tank can do, connecting the first shell straight off the bat, has a runes.
What?
Looks like
runes!
Runes!
Oh my god. That is one way to throw a game almost. It's the Game of Thrones, the Game of Throws even. Can you believe it? And that ends into a draw.
Wow.
Wow.
Runes just completely threw that game. What? What?
Someone's going to be taken outside and given a clip around the back of the head there, because in a situation like that was right down to the wire, right? You expect a team of that caliber to go, all right, guys, let's just play smart, play chilled.
Why did he jump off the cliff?
Why would you leap? I know I know it's stressful. I know sometimes it gets harder. You know, life becomes a complex thing. But there's no need to throw yourself off a cliff. There's just none of it. Dear Lord. And that's one way to end a game on Abbey.
He would have won the game as well because
just by staying alive.
Yeah, he had the 8 points. They would have given him the 24 points as opposed to the 16, so they would have won. And Runes is a new player, so well, I think that's going to be a replay we see as put as a GIF. That
trickling down the hill.
Yeah, and just saying Runes had crashed, and we're going to see that over and over again. So if you are out there in Twitch chat, make a GIF of Runes has been crashed. And do keep on sending that to him because he's going to hate that for the rest of his life, I think. Because
but he needs to be reminded of that for the rest of his life.
He does.
Wow, moments like that. Can you believe it?
I mean, I didn't expect to see that at all. Well, fair enough.
Not from this caliber of teams. Obviously, these guys went to DreamHack. They didn't do great, but they went there. They played very well throughout that season. They placed 6th in the first season. You don't expect someone to just roll off a hill. But nevertheless, it happens to the best. Well, it doesn't really happen to the best of us, but it happens.
It happens. We'll say that. We'll say that.
It happens, and that's about all we can really say on that.
I mean, he did have 12 HP to give him some credit, but because of that, he shouldn't have done that. Yeah, exactly.
You go, oh, I've only got 12 HP. Let's be a bit cautious here. Let's be careful. I don't want to fall off this cliff.
I think, it's one of those things where he just misjudged it. Physics are still relatively new thing to this game. Coming in 8.0.
I think Logic's pretty old, though. We've had Logic for a while.
Physics as well, we've had for quite a long time.
Yeah, it's been around a while, right?
Is it right? Yeah.
I don't know. But clearly didn't pay off quite the way we'd expected there. And I don't think anyone giving predictions on Facebook right now, you owe that man either a lot of money saying, oh, yeah, that ended a draw, or, you want to punch him. And I support both. You don't go rolling off cliffs for no reason. But... yeah, I want to kind of hear what, the TeamSpeak or the raid call or whatever, they're using. Yeah. I want to hear that right now. That moment when that happened, I just want to go, let's just tune in and just see how that one went down.
I think it would just been collective face palms. You just had this yeah, exactly, smack on the desk or on the forehead. I would have just got up and just walked around the room and just been like, well...
that would have been time to go away and have a breather, wouldn't it?
It would have been like a philosophical moment for me. I'd have been like, what's the point of this? It's just horrible. I mean, we've all been in those situations, though. You've played Call of Duty professionally. I played World of Tanks professionally, as professionals you could get back in the day. And, you always have those moments where you kind of throw a game. Yeah.
You just hope it's not in that first defining game of the brand new season where you can redeem any sort of issues and go, Joel, guys, we made a couple of mistakes, but we're here now. We're ready. We're talented individuals. We know what we're doing. And you roll off a cliff. You don't want to be doing that. That's just a kind of...
It kind of puts the slogan of World of Tanks to a new meaning, roll out. Well...
There you go. Maybe they need to be careful on what they're putting on these things. These kids take it literally. But I think we're just going to get themselves picked back up. I'm going to have a little read through the chat, see what they're saying, see if there's any sort of banter going out. Some PC issues,
it's a draw.
Saying, but yeah, it's a draw.
Yeah, so we'll be replaying this game, which we didn't expect, as we've just been saying. No. But yeah, we'll see another Abbey, which is always good. It's a fast, dynamic map. It's good fun to watch. Yep. But Kazna crew, they had it in their hands.
Exactly.
Completely.
I was about to say, let's actually analyse that game and ignore that point right there. Yeah. Well, we'll try to. It's hard to, but we'll put it aside for a moment. As up to that point, once again, it was. I personally think High played very well again. He's kind of being my new favourite. His initial exchange by the Abbey went very well. And I think they're jumping right back into this, so they're not going to hold out for a second. So, guys, we're going to jump right back into the game now, because these guys are pretty much ready to go. Yeah, well, so there'll be a second game on Abbey. Looks like one of the AMX 1390s is struggling to get in game. Maybe he's got slow. Oh, there we go. He's in. Yeah. So will these two teams play similarly? Will they change their tactics? Obviously, now they know that they're different. They know what the other team's going to do in some respects. Obviously, you can change it up on a map like this, but you got an idea how they're going to play it. Obviously, Kazna crew will know that GF Gaming are going to push up the mountainside with the MX 5100s. Well, GF Gaming will know Kazna crew are a more middle-centric team. Yeah, indeed. And it does seem as though we're seeing a very similar kind of player already coming out from the T71 with Hyber obviously at the wheel there. And Paluda doing just about the same thing that T69. Something though towards that Abbey is now still in Mojo, joins in on the fun. And they're kind of edging towards where they were before. It's a very similar kind of setup here. As you said, they're not going to adapt too much. They're not going to change vast amounts. But I want to see if there's any variation coming in initially. And are you seeing any just as of yet? Well, yeah, they've gone completely towards the trench side. We saw the MX-5100, I said double MX 1390 push up towards the mountain side, but they've gone exactly the opposite, pushing and catching out Vecco in their AMX 1390 straight off the bat. And yeah, we'll see a first engagement
on the trench.
Yeah, indeed. And Veko clearly being very careful of those cliff edges right now, making his way around to possibly keep eyes on that T71 and that 1390, just mere steps away. He's keeping eyes on it. He's not actually got any connection yet, as now it's Runes who has to back away, missing a bit of a good shell there. He might have actually caught that 1390 just on the edge, but not by a great deal. And this very aggressive play, is this just to completely throw off the Kazna crew?
I think it was a planned thing to do, because they knew Kazna crew would be able to predict if they did the same. So they thought, okay, let's just push along the trench. We'll see what happens. If we have all our tanks there and we lose a firefight, okay, fine, we'll lose a firefight. But if we have all our tanks there, then there's a very good chance that we won't, because Kazna crew probably won't have all their tanks there. And they did. They took Runes out to 555 in AMX 1390, even though he did connect that first shell. And it's a clever little play by them, for sure.
Yeah, indeed. And it's made Hyber and I believe Paluda actually retract back from that Abbey to make sure they keep eyes on this section. And yet Hyber is actually laying down the fire already. The shells aren't quite connecting, but he's showing his presence. He's showing that he's there. And I do believe there was actually some connection onto, who was that? I think it was Veko they actually landed the shell onto there.
Yeah, and T69 connecting another shell onto Veko, taking down to 639 in that MX 1390, but it does look like he's reloading, so it will be at least 25 seconds on the clock until he has another opportunity to focus down the MX 1390.
Yeah, indeed. And he knows that T69 is just around the corner. He knows that 1390 is now back into it as well. So he knows exactly where these guys are. Between him and I believe it's Hyber down the other end of that 8 line, they know exactly where they are, but doing anything about it, as you said, with that reload is rather difficult right now as the shells are raining in. I think there's a great connection there, knocking that AMX 1390 down to only 42 hit points left now. So that's going to do a lot of work, and that's going to maybe cause them to retract a touch, but it doesn't seem to be doing that at all. Yeah,
well, he's down to 42, as you said. Pushing backwards now. That was a pretty stupid move, because they should have looked at the terrain. Obviously, Abbey is a very bumpy map. A lot of people complain that it's too bumpy, perhaps. So they went over the crest. The MX 1390 has no gun depression, so they couldn't get the shells, while Kazna crew, being there for a while, they could kind of get themselves situated. They could get the shells, and that's why Kazna crew came off better after that engagement.
And Ziggy was actually just taken out as well. So that T2 line doing a lot of work very early on, and now Veko has to kind of retract back. I believe that you know, obviously Ziggy was kind of holding the back there of Veko, and now with that open, he's a little bit worried now because he's fairly exposed in the position he's in. So I'd be worried too if I was him, to be fair. He knows there's still a player very close to him. That 1390 still in position, as now Cobra Leone has fallen as well. Yeah, finally the T1, the T2 light decided to push on to the lone Cobra Leone, as now those two can push up towards the mountainsides. They actually, not sure how far they will go. They could go for a cap. They could put some pressure onto Kazna crew. Now, it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to mirror that with a push onto Kazna crew with their main tanks. Will they be able to get that damage down, or will they go for the cap? Yeah, indeed. Questions that are surely going to be in the Kazna crew's guys' heads as well, and how they can kind of deal with this. As Veko still pinned in here, not being able to make a move at all. He's literally stuck in this position. He has been for quite some time. He has been able to keep eyes on the opposition, but do absolutely nothing. With that T69 in position, the opposition has a drop on him the whole time. There's nothing he can do really from here at the moment, apart from keep eyes. He's got some fire coming in towards the opposition, but he can't do too much right now. Yeah, and that was another good shot by Hyber onto the T1, so he was prepared then. He did just take him out. I mean, the T1 played well because he pushed forwards. He didn't want to lose that T2 light. They just want to, if they're going to lose anything, it was going to be a T1. So well played from him, but Hyber now quickly retreating because he knows he needs to be there for in case a firefight comes. And now GF, they know that Kazna crew don't have one of their kind of damage-dealing tanks. Then they could possibly push onto them. And without Hyber's support, it could go pear-shaped. Yeah, indeed. But we know that he can play well under those pressured situations. He's one of the players that if you were depending on someone, you probably want it to be him. But the push seems to be happening. And now Paluda and Hyber are in trouble. Yeah, Paluda just took a big shell. Runes as well. As now GF Gaming going to push straight onto Kazna crew. Coming around the corner, the T71 will be the first target. Yeah, Paluda did manage to land a shell on them. seconds are raining in slowly but surely, and it does finally see that Steel Mojo was the one to take down that AMX 5100 that's causing so much trouble, even only that 1390, that T71 up there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was for a push. The T71 was on low health, so they shouldn't have pushed it in the first place. I'm not sure why they did that, because they're lucky they still have it. And then Steel Mojo getting another kill onto the MX 1390. I mean, they should have pushed with all tanks around. You never push with just one or two tanks, because against all the firepower of the other team, you're always going to lose.
Yeah, indeed. Paluda still knows exactly what T69 is, and I do believe that T69 knows exactly where he is as well, so they're just dancing around each other, literally steps away, not wanting to give this one away, because it is such a tense moment between these two. If someone makes a mistake that we've seen before, it can cost them just about everything. As now Veko comes to join in the fun, lays down a couple of shells. Paluda is in trouble, but he's doing the work as Hyber has actually... Did he just find two there? And it's Paluda who finally does get the shot off onto that T69 and does do the work, leaving only one to find now for the Kazna crew. Wow, what a turnaround of events.
Yeah, they did have the better gameplay on this. They just waited for GF Gaming to make the mistakes. They knew they're a little bit more inexperienced, especially in the best of 5 format. And, you know, at the end of the day, Kazna crew did nothing that special. They just waited for them, and they just bided their time, and GF Gaming played into their trap. Although GF Gaming did pretty well at the beginning because they got the damage down. Yeah. But it's just inexperience, I think. This team is going to continue getting better throughout the season. And when they can fix those little mistakes, like I said, you know, when they're pushing around the corner that you should have pushed with all tanks, then who knows? Exactly.
They could be one of those teams to really cause some upsets. And I hope they are. You know, it was a shame they didn't quite capitalise on that little bit of an advantage they had initially. Obviously, they did catch a couple of players off guard. They did do a lot of initial damage, but they didn't quite, obviously, finish that one off quite how they'd like to. But nevertheless, I think, you know, they've shown a fairly good start to things here.
They have.
I don't think anyone can take away from them.
They've played well. Yeah. And they still have a lot to learn. There's still a long road to go. This is our first match day of 22 match days. And honestly, I think this will be the closest season we have ever seen. Obviously, we've only seen one season, so... But it's still...
It's not much to be compared to, but still, it's...
I mean, I think I say that more because Season 1 wasn't so close in some respects. We saw Virtus Pro take 21 games to 1 loss. Mouse Sports also doing a good record. They did something like 16-4. Also, we saw Dignitas, formerly known as Synergy, doing extremely well and eventually winning it. And then the rest of the teams, not so close. So we saw Spell with 12 wins, 10 losses, and then it carries on going down. So it wasn't a close season, but I just think now all the teams are so used to this setup. Most of the teams, obviously 3 of them are new, so they won't be, but still, I think we won't be seeing any 21s to 1 losses this season at all.
Indeed. Considering a team that's relatively new, as you said, to this tournament format, is already able to challenge someone who, you know, came top 10. You know, sorry, it was top 8. I think they actually ended up 6th.
They came in 6th,
yeah. So they've already taken a map off a team of that caliber. If they keep progressing the way they did and they capitalise on, you know, those initial advantages that they were able to make and get, then they're certainly a team we could look out for. And these guys are one of the newer additions. Yeah. So God only knows what the other teams have been doing in between that little bit of downtime in between, and obviously with DreamHack going on as well, they've clearly been making their. Well, they've been doing their work, and hopefully they've been watching some VODs back, getting their tactics down, and, you know, getting used to the new patch as well.
That's so key. We've been talking about this patch for so long today, and you can't stress it enough how much it changed the gameplay. We saw then so many shells we wouldn't have seen being connected. We saw no artillery. We often see a Sturmpanzer Bison, a Sturmpanzer 2 being used on Abbey, and it just goes on and on and on. And you know, usually we see like we last saw a couple of patches ago. In fact, we saw like a T69 being used, but there's been no tanks added in this patch. So everything is purely gameplay. Well, GG to Kazna crew taking it 3-1. And, well, I think we could have a little look at the amount of damage these guys did. We don't usually see anything too unusual now because all the teams are so... You know, it's an AMX 1390. You're not going to see, like, a standout performance usually. Usually we see, like, roughly the same. And Pilauda doing 2.3k, Runes doing 1.2k, and it carries on like that. You know, Steel Mojo doing 1.1, Hyber doing 900, Veko maybe could have done a little bit at 250, but he was the kind of punching bag. He did take a lot of shells then.
He did roll with the damage.
Exactly. Yeah, it's an important role. You can never bash him for doing that because someone needs to do it.
Yeah, there's always one. But I'm looking at my producer. I wonder if we can go to a quick little break now, as we are going to wait on the next team's carp. And who have we actually got coming up next?
I think it's Bale versus...
Denova, I believe it is.
It's Denova WoT, I think that's how you pronounce their name, which is formerly known as Meet Your Makers. Same thing, but they've got the Hive, who's a Russian player who played the T1 in the Wargaming League, Russian winning team, the Rush. So be interested to see how they change their gameplay.
Certainly good games coming up in just a moment, guys. But while we are just going to go, obviously refresh ourselves, have a drink, and obviously get over the fact that someone actually fell off a cliff during that last game, because we need to calm down a little bit. We're going to a quick commercial break, and we'll be back in just a moment. But make sure you get involved on the Twitter and Facebook. You know exactly what it is. Tell us your next predictions. You know the teams now. You know their previous track records. Let us know what you think at WoT Pro League on Facebook and Twitter. We'll keep eyes on it.